get complex setups. I'm going to reveal how to capture stunning street shots with just 2 camera setups. Let's get into it. Shooting can be as simple as you like. I only use 2 user settings. On my Ricoh GR3 and the GR3X, I use U1 for daytime street photography and U3 for nighttime street photography. And U2 I reserve for experimenting with different focus settings. The good news is most of these settings aren't camera brand specific. Whether you're using a Fuji, a Canon, Nikon or Panasonic or any other brand, you can apply these principles. Let's jump straight in. Now let's address a setting that varies across different camera brands: focus. I'm sure that you're familiar with your camera's capabilities and have a preferred focus setting. Some may opt for manual focus, or if you're using a Ricoh camera, snap focus. For those of you who don't know, this feature allows for setting a predetermined focus distance where the camera instantly focuses to that distance, which is measured in meters, bypassing the typical autofocus process. Personally, I stick with what consistently delivers me sharply captured subjects in most scenarios, and that's auto area autofocus in the center mode. Each camera brand has its own implementation of autofocus systems. Many cameras offer advanced autofocus modes such as tracking autofocus, continuous autofocus, and of course there's select autofocus where you select the focus point on the back of the screen. Ultimately, what I'm saying is that you should find the focusing system that works best for you, and that's a matter of trial, practice, and error. It's all about what helps you capture subjects seamlessly. I always set my camera to aperture priority. This allows you to control the depth of field by selecting the aperture, plus you also get to control the ISO, while the camera adjusts the shutter speed or the auto ISO, which we're going to get into soon. It's an excellent balance for capturing subjects quickly while maintaining some creative control. For the aperture during the daytime, I use anything from f3.2 when I'm looking for that softer vibe, f8 for reflection style shots, all the way up to f14 when I want maximum depth, such as if I'm shooting obstructions. If you want to learn about obstructions, the card is up above. Because you've got creative control over your depth of field, have fun testing different apertures to see how they can dramatically change the mood and focus of your street photos. Just a quick one. If these settings are working for you in a relaxed fashion, please hit that like button and please subscribe for more tips and tutorials. I always appreciate it. For metering, I use multi-segment metering, which is the equivalent of evaluative matrix metering, which takes a reading from across the frame. It's versatile and it handles pretty much all situations well, to the point where you won't have to think about it unless I'm talking about it here. In previous videos, we've gone over the intricacies of setting your auto ISO for varying light conditions. Let's quickly recap the essentials for those who are tuning in for the first time. And for regulars, here's a quick reminder. For daytime street photography, I set my auto ISO from 100 ISO up to a maximum of 3200 ISO, and that's with a minimum shutter speed of 1/250th of a second. This setup allows for great flexibility, handling everything from bright sunlight, shaded areas, partially covered areas, and covered areas. And the beauty of this is that you don't have to make any manual adjustments apart from alter your aperture. A practical example of this is when I'm shooting in challenging light conditions such as the Barbican estate in London, where I transition between darkly and brightly lit areas. The auto ISO smoothly adjusts, maintaining optimal exposure and sharpness. So consider these settings in the daytime when you're out and about on the streets. If you're interested in learning more about auto ISO, I'm linking my most recent video up for you now. For the drive mode, I prefer single shooting. I find that it helps improve reflexes and timing when you're out there capturing subjects. With single frame shooting, you're forced to anticipate the decisive moment. It sharpens your instinct, making you more attuned to subtle shifts in potential subjects' body language and fleeting expressions. Over time, you'll find yourself reacting faster, almost intuitively, to the split-second photo opportunities that street photography is famous for. However, if continuous shooting works for you, then by all means use it. I mainly shoot in RAW, sometimes RAW plus JPEG. Shooting in RAW gives you the ability to edit your photos exactly how you want and define your own style. You might also like to check out your camera's JPEG recipes, like these Ricoh ones. Sometimes it's nice not to have to edit your photos at all. If your images are shot in RAW, just leaving your camera on auto white balance is fine because you can adjust the temperature and the tint to your liking in post-processing. But once you shoot in JPEG, those colors are baked into your photos, so you can't really do any significant color adjustments post-shoot. Even though I have the camera set up to choose any Ricoh recipe, snap focus distance, etc., I don't really use these custom buttons that often. And everybody is different and has different needs, and I bet that you've set up your cameras exactly how you want them to be. The only custom button that I use, I have programmed onto this FN button, is the crop modes. I'm always changing from the standard 28mm on the GR3 and 40mm on the GR3X to 35mm on the GR3, 50mm on both cameras, and 71mm on the GR3X. I find these focal lengths really useful if you want to get closer to your subjects without actually moving your feet, which is brilliant if you see a subject in the distance and you know that you won't be able to frame them without zooming in. So since discovering the crop modes and having them at a touch of a button, this function is invaluable to me as much as auto ISO. I know that other camera brands have crop modes where if you have a full frame camera you can shoot in APS-C mode, and I'm pretty sure that some Fuji cameras have their own crop modes. So if you haven't tried them, give them a go, as they not only help if you have an aversion to getting close to people, they are also good if you can't be bothered to walk. Apart from auto ISO and your choice of aperture, which needs to be at the wide end of the scale at night time, every single setting is the same for my night shooting, which I have set to U3 on the custom dial. At night time, you need to shoot at very wide apertures because you need to get enough light through the diaphragm of the lens. Therefore, you need to shoot at apertures ranging from approximately f2.8 to f3.2 pretty much all the time, depending upon the brightness or the darkness of the streets that you find yourself in. But what also matters is the auto ISO setting. At night, you need to strike a balance with as much light as possible hitting the sensor without blurring your subjects. So you need to shoot at shutter speeds that are not too fast, that have a detrimental effect resulting in darkening the exposure. Therefore, you might want to pick a minimum shutter speed of approximately 1/100 seconds. I know that I can freeze subjects at this speed or even slower. The minimum that I can capture and freeze subjects is 1/20th of a second. I bet that you'll be able to freeze subjects at this shutter speed or potentially slower. So 1/100 seconds is a good balance for capturing subjects and letting enough light hit the camera's sensor. Also, set your ISO range from 800 to 6400. Starting at 800 makes sense because the chances of getting a usable shot at 100 ISO at night are pretty slim. We need that higher minimum to ensure that we're getting enough light. As for the maximum of 6400, this is great for really dark scenes, and it is at the top end of the scale before you start seeing significant noise. So auto ISO 800 to 6400 with a minimum shutter speed of 1/100 seconds is where it's at for night street photography exposure. If you couple that with apertures of f2.8 to f3.2, then you're on to a winner. So do you have any different settings that you use that you would like to share with the community? Or do you have any of your own tips and settings that are completely different to what I'm sharing here? Please let us know down below. With practice, these settings will become second nature, allowing you to focus on composition and timing rather than camera operations. However, if you want to learn how to photograph urban night landscape shots in detail, then check out this video here. Until we meet again, go forth and create.